Welcome to the Monday Night Raw review on this Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. With Saturday night main event just a few days away, we've got a jam-packed week with previews and predictions, mailbag, combination episodes, review, and much more. So glad you're here. And if you want to join us on an ad-free stream of this show, well, Patreon offers that. Apple offers that. Just click on subscribe on Apple or go to patreon.com/WWE podcast. Gives you a great opportunity to do that if you don't want to listen to the ads. Good way to do it. So, hey, Monday Night Raw has come and gone, and it did not come and go without certainly some items to talk about that are concerning, somewhat exciting. Something feels a little off in the company, I have to say. Just generally, things kind of feel disheveled, and maybe it's because of the big injuries that have been happening. Obviously, Seth Rollins at the top of that list. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, you have John Cena about to retire. You have Jey Uso possibly turning heel, but maybe it's Punk turning heel. You've got a lot of weird stuff going on. Roman Reigns comes and goes. It's a strange time that I can't quite put my finger on what the hell is going on, which tells me they probably don't either. But we're going to dive into Monday Night Raw. And let's do that right now. Let's do it. Because Monday Night Raw had a very strange opening. An opening that I know I see a lot of streamers talking about, and with, kind of rightfully so, with the review and the recap. And then you have Jey Uso come out, and it took freaking like 10 minutes before he said anything. People are just yeeting. I really find, I did find that annoying. I will jump on the bandwagon there. I thought that was a very terrible way to start off Raw. And if you're WWE, you have to look at this and all the negativity and all the dislikes on the Jey Uso YouTube video, and you have to laugh because it's not translating. It's not translating in person. And if people want real change and they don't want something to happen, or they want something to happen, well, you got to bring it into 3D space. You can't just have it live online on memes or dislike buttons. So WWE is probably saying, let's just ignore it. It's not affecting our television product. People in person aren't clearly feeling this way, which they kind of use as a sample size to test the waters for the general audience. So until something translates in real life, they're not going to pay attention. So that said, though, I mean, it is and was pretty insane the way they started off Raw. It was almost like they were trying to kill time. I personally am over the Yeet stuff. I'm not sure how everyone else is feeling about the Yeet stuff. I mean, the in-person crowd seems to still enjoy it, but as the general viewer at home, you got a little impatient. But Jey Uso doesn't talk long, as you would imagine he doesn't, and we have him sitting on a podium in the middle of the ring, and we have Jey greeting the broadcast team before coming in, and he said he's had a lot of people in his ear lately, including Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, and his mother. Jey said he doesn't give a damn what they think about him. It's just me, Us, he said, and adding that it was just him in the Battle Royal, and it will be just him on Saturday. Well, it wasn't just him in the Battle Royal, but okay, Jey. Now, you knew that only 2 or 3 sentences were going to get out of his mouth before someone interrupted him. You just know it, because he can't be trusted in a long form promo. It's not his gig, not his thing. But CM Punk comes out to a pretty big ovation, and he's talked about being friends with Jey. He recalled Jey eliminating his own brother from the Battle Royal. That got some boos. And then Punk told the crowd that it was within the rules. It was every man for himself, so Jey shouldn't be booed. Again, I'm not going to be told by any babyface who we shouldn't boo or who we should and why. Okay. It's like, no, Punk, you don't get to tell us who we boo and why. All right. And why we shouldn't boo somebody. Not a good way to convince people. But we have Punk say that Jey's actions showed that he has what it takes. And that Jey said Punk tries to paint a picture of him being the bad guy. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the whole segment here. Punk then spoke about his need to win the world championship and he asked how far Jey would be willing to go after he's face down on the mat with his grill knocked out and in a situation he can't yeet his way out of. And Jey said he's been in deep water before and knows how to swim. He said Punk tries to paint a picture of him being the bad guy. Screw you. That's what Jey said to Punk. He said, on Saturday night, I'll show you who the best in the world is. And that's it. You knew that this wasn't going to be anything long form because of Jey's big limitations on the mic. And he would have gotten completely slaughtered had they really gone back and forth of a best of insults type of promo or witty type promo. Jey would have been completely decimated. So they made Jey look decent. I mean, he held his own for what this was, and they gave you something to build for this match for two baby faces that up until Seth's injury 2 weeks ago, WWE didn't plan on this happening. No one planned on this happening. So you have a massive injury like Seth. You have to have a championship match. Jey is the one to step up and face Punk. So this was, it was fine for what it was, but I don't hate this segment other than the first 10 minutes that didn't need to be there. So there. Okay. Nikki Bella was then shown walking backstage. Yes, we had a Judgment Day segment as well that I mean, honestly, in my mind, the Judgment Day has already disbanded. In my mind, that's already happened because it should have happened a long time ago. So we have, as I said, Nikki walking backstage, and we get a Penta Rusev match for the very first official match of the show for the winner getting a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. The match went 10 minutes exactly, but to a no contest. And the finish was Penta putting Rusev down with the Penta driver for a good near fall. And then both men traded strikes. And that's when the Americano and Bravo Americano entered the ring and attacked Penta and Rusev to end the match, which, as I said, ended in a no contest for this matchup. And you're thinking, oh, if you're an amateur watcher of the show, you're like, oh man, so we have no winner. Dom doesn't have to face anybody. But if you've been watching wrestling for any more than a month, you know where this is going. And the inevitable did happen later in the show that it was made official that it's going to be a triple threat for Dom's Intercontinental title at Saturday night's main event with Penta, Rusev, and Dom in the match. And Dom had a really good segment with Adam Pearce backstage. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Dom had a good night. He continued to push forward his newly babyface run. So, okay. We did have, after the match, though, the El Grande Americano joining Rayo, I think it's called, and Bravo, and attacking Rusev and Penta. And Rusev returned, cleared the ring, and Americano tried to make his exit, but Penta got some shots in. So this is kind of a side story to a main story with the Intercontinental title, with the Americanos trying to do something relevant, and also at the same time having the two men that are bigger stars in Penta and Rusev challenging for the Intercontinental title, with the Americanos trying to spoil that. And they could have something to say at Saturday night's main event, interfering in some way in the match. They might. It's a triple threat, so by just, of course, decree, there are no rules in that match. And you know my thoughts on that. It's ridiculous that there's no rules, so to speak, no disqualification automatically because you have a certain number of people in the match. It just is, the lack of logic there is embarrassing. But let's continue. So backstage, Jackie Redmond interviews LA Knight and asked him where he goes next after coming up short in the Battle Royal. And he said that he didn't care what Jey Uso's motives were last week. And he said the only thing that matters is Jey moving on to Saturday night's main event, and he's not. He said he doesn't care if it's Jey or Punk. He wants the winner. Now that's encouraging, except for the fact, again, the timing for Knight. This is another very bad example of timing, or a good example, depending how you look at it, of Knight challenging for a top championship like the Undisputed, or in this case, the world title, and the timing just makes no sense. What do I mean in this case? Well, whoever wins at Saturday night's main event between Jey and Punk, and assuming there's no screwy finish where there's still a vacant championship because it's a no contest or some weird finish that they could do, assuming that doesn't happen and one of them actually becomes champion, which I do think will happen, that person is not going to then immediately drop the belt, whether it's Punk or Uso, or if Punk turns heel or Uso turns heel. There's really no combination, I don't think, in which Knight, who is the first challenger of a newly crowned champion, is going to take the belt off of the champion. It's almost as if when someone's newly crowned, that person has immunity for like 3 months. And then you can start to talk about if they could drop it. So there's almost no chance, if WWE follows through with this, that if Knight challenges the winner, say at Survivor Series or on Raw or whatever, there's almost no chance that Knight becomes champion once again. So I don't have I'm not encouraged by this. For us LA Knight fans out there that want him to finally win a world title, I'm not encouraged by the timing of this particular run for LA Knight. I think, to me, you look more towards the Rumble if you want to dream big. I'm not saying he's going to win the Rumble. There are certainly top contenders in there. He's in the conversation, but you have other guys like either Jey or CM Punk. One of them who's not champion will likely be in the Rumble. You have Roman Reigns likely in the Royal Rumble. You have a wild card of Brock Lesnar perhaps in the Royal Rumble. You have Randy Orton in there that always is fun, but probably no real chance. So Knight in the conversation for the Royal Rumble winner is a thing, but I don't know if they'll ever make him the main event of WrestleMania. So that's the other fly in the ointment too. I mean, they put him right on the outskirts of a top guy without ever actually making him a top guy. I really do believe that he will eventually be world champion, but I don't know when that's going to be because the universe seems to be conspiring against him when it comes to timing. And I could be totally wrong about this, and I hope I am. I want to see LA Knight be champion before some injury, God forbid, happens, or they move on to another shiny new toy. But right now, I don't believe that this latest declaration by LA Knight is going to result in him winning the world championship, at least on this go around once again. I feel like we've been talking about that for years now, since his organic support began after the whole Maxine Dupree, and remember that whole thing? He was on SmackDown with Maxine and they were doing their modeling and all that. But once LA Knight got the fan support, it hasn't left. So if WWE is concerned about the litmus test of can he pass the test of fan support being consistent, that's beyond. I mean, that's checked off the box 3 times. It's been years and the fans have still been behind him. He can deliver on the mic. He can deliver in the ring. He's got the look. He's marketable. The only thing he has not going for him is age. He's not young. And if they want to look to the future, and WWE wants to look to the future, hey, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed are at the forefront of that class. They're the poster boys for the future of the company right now. So, but that doesn't mean LA Knight can't have a real good run of several months. But again, I'm not encouraged by this latest declaration. You got to time it a little bit better. I could be told again. I hope I'm wrong. Okay. Going off on a tangent as I do, let's move on. Backstage, Braun Breaker told Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman that he and Reed should have destroyed everyone in the Battle Royal last week. Reed nodded, but Heyman said Adam Pearce would have suspended them all without pay. Heyman said Punk and Jey beat each other half to death and will show up to next week's Raw as a victim looking to be victimized by a true victimizer. Only Paul Heyman would say something like that. Heyman said there's one man who shares this vision. Breakker said he wanted Heyman to go to Pierce and get a match against that person. Heyman said he already did, and Breakker would face LA Knight later in the show. So again, not only is LA Knight getting consistent fan support, but he's also a very much consistent main eventer, being put in main events. He's working with top guys. He's working with a proclaimed future WrestleMania main eventer. So, I mean, again, he's being positioned well, just not at the top of the mountain. So, we then have Tessitore mentioned that Asuka made her main roster debut 10 years ago this week, and that's when an Asuka video aired. That's kind of crazy. I love when they bring that stuff up, because you got to remember COVID sucked about how many years of our lives, and there's just a black hole for a lot of us. The fact that Asuka's been here for 10 years on the main roster, pretty incredible. And I truly believe Asuka, I mean, without even really thinking twice, is a Hall of Famer for the women. And there's more gas left in the tank, but it's kind of cool when they bring up these stats, because most fans aren't thinking about that. Very Michael Cole of him to do that. So backstage, Adam Pearce spoke on the phone and was approached by Finn Balor and JD. Pearce said he had something to tell Dom. Balor and McDonough wanted a rematch for the World Tag Team titles. And Pearce said if they were already busy, he said they were already busy because one of them would be facing Sheamus, who was upset about eliminating him from last week's Battle Royal illegally. McDonough accepted the match and said he'd be coming back after he ripped Sheamus's head off. Okay, so then we get another match here. Second match of the night. Nikki Bella and Roxanne Perez. And this match went 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, I will say that, again, you guys know, without any apologies, and I'm not backtracking, I am not a Nikki Bella fan. I think generally she has been a representation of what women's wrestling used to be. I think she is a bit high in her own supply of what her legacy is or was prior to her return. She, I think, is still in some respects kind of regressing the women, because she relies, I mean, in every single one of her entrances on her sexuality. I mean, watch her entrance. It's the stripper dance. Yeah, it's a stripper pole dance every time she comes out, which I don't find amusing. I don't find even mildly entertaining. I think it's a callback to the Butterfly Divas era that I don't think anybody wants to go back to. And she's, again, trying to position herself as some kind of previous trendsetter or pioneer in the women's division, which, of course, personally, I think is a joke. However, all those criticisms aside, I can be objective and say that she has been improving week over week in the ring. She has been showing that she actually gives a damn and isn't here for just a cameo appearance. Roxanne Perez does get the victory, which is a rare victory for Roxanne, who constantly is looking up at the lights for 1, 2, 3, doing jobs for people. But Nikki Bella here really did a nice job. I can't criticize her in this match. And I want to. I mean, I want to find ways to not say nice things about Nikki, because I find her on a personal level, and the things she says off camera when she's not in character on other shows, I find her just completely off-putting and very much a sign of the culture that I won't get into. I despise almost everything about her. However, again, I think she's doing a nice job. She's doing a nice job. She's much smoother in the ring. She's shown she can keep up with today's talent. Is she the top female in the division? No. But she's got name brand value. People know who Nikki Bella is if you watch wrestling. And she's helping younger talent. Yes, and of course, selfishly helping herself. But who isn't if you're in wrestling, right? You're not here to do charity work. So Roxanne beats Nikki in 11 minutes and 20 seconds. And after the match, Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer runs out, checks on Nikki. Rodriguez comes in the ring, and Vaquer stood up and went face-to-face with Rodriguez. Boy, she's a big woman. Wow. Nikki stood up and joined Vaquer in staring down Rodriguez until she left the ring. So no physicality exchanged here, which is actually kind of nice once in a while. So backstage, Asuka scolds Lyra for about having a tag title match while Kairi stood by. After the Kabuki Warriors left, Bayley showed up and gave Valkyria a matching jacket. Bayley eventually asked, what if they lost the tag title match? Valkyria got fired up and asked, what if they win? And Bayley liked that, and they did a hand slap and looked at each other and whatever. Jimmy then approached Jey backstage and took issue with him and took issue with Jey saying it's just him now. Jimmy pointed out that he saved Jey twice in the Battle Royal, and Jey said it was every man for himself. Jimmy said that the play was that they would eliminate everyone else and then it would be every man for himself. And Jimmy said Jey was afraid of finding out what would happen if they had been the last two in the Royal or in the Battle Royal, not the Royal Rumble. So Jimmy's addressing it here. I still don't have any interest in a Jimmy Jey matchup. I won't. It's crazy because these two are ultra talented in the ring and they've been mainstays on the main roster for how many years now, involved in one of the best long-term storylines WWE has ever put together in the Bloodline and Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns and how that whole thing was put together and how it mutated over the years. It was one of the best storylines they ever had. And so when you put these two together, you think, oh, well, how could it be a bad match? Well, it is a bad. I mean, it's just they don't have chemistry in the ring. I don't like it. The super kicks are out of control. They just don't have that chemistry, that it factor you're looking for when two men go in the ring together or two women. It just doesn't work. So I don't want to see it again, but I may be forced to. Third match of the night, Braun Breaker with Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman versus LA Knight. So this match went, let me get the number, 13 minutes and 40 seconds with Breaker beating LA Knight. So again, if you're an LA Knight fan, not a good sign. But the finish was Knight turning his attention to Paul Heyman, and he then got back in the ring. Breaker pressed Knight over his head. He slipped away. Breaker was put down with a DDT, and then Knight went to the ropes for his double jump elbow drop, but Breaker kipped up and speared him for a 1-2-3. So Breaker gets the victory. He got a little bit of help, but not overly done. You have Knight who that's a big loss. It's a big loss. It doesn't knock Knight out of contention for a world title per se, but it kind of positions Knight below Breaker in the eyes of WWE. That's the message I received from that victory. And it still tells me that they're eyeing Breaker. They're eyeing Breaker, I think, more than even Bronson Reed and LA Knight. Braun Breaker, I mean, why would you proclaim that a guy is going to be a multi-main eventer at WrestleMania if they didn't actually have any actual intention of trying to make him that? So you have LA Knight lose here to Braun Breaker after a spear. If I'm not mistaken, there was no kick out of a finish here. Am I wrong? Which is just unheard of. Amazing when you have one finish to a fall. What that can do for when you kick out of a finish during a big moment, not just because, and that's how you create drama. So that was nice. Adam Pearce was then trying to search for Dominic backstage. He found him speaking with the Americanos, and Pearce informed Dom that he would have to defend the title, as I said earlier, against Penta and Rusev in a triple threat. And then backstage, well, before I move on, we had in this little segment with Pearce and Dom tell Pearce, after all that, He said, no hablo inglés. Suddenly say, he doesn't understand what you're saying. That was just a funny little thing that Dom said that made me laugh. So Dom becoming kind of the charming, witty, smarmy champion, but in a way he's, I think, made endearing now. He's in that sweet spot that's going to continue to grow. So again, backstage, Jey told Jimmy that he's his brother. He loves him, and nothing will change that. He told him that he would have thrown him over the top rope, but it didn't play out that way. Well, actually, it did. So I might have read that wrong. Jimmy said he would have thrown him over the top rope. Oh, I got it. Okay. And then Jey said Jimmy was coming at him for days before the match and claiming he betrayed him. Jey asked if they were good. He said, quote, "I feel you," and they shook hands. So seemingly things are made amends here. I have my doubts. There could be there's something weird that's going to happen in the Jey Uso and CM Punk match at Saturday night's main event for the world title. You could have Jimmy coming in here. You certainly could have Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker in this. You could have a heel turn from Punk or from Jey. Jey seems to be the logical choice, but they certainly could go with Punk too to try to shock the world. I would not advise it. I don't need that to try to swerve us. Punk as a babyface works just fine right now, but they could just for swerve's sake. So something weird is up for this match. It doesn't have, I think, a good outcome if it's any other decision other than Punk winning for fans. I think fans feel that they've been screwed out of a Punk title run since Punk came back in November of 23. So Punk's been back for 2 years. And he has yet to hold a world championship. I don't want to hear about the SummerSlam victory. I don't want to hear about the few. No. That is, of course, nonsense. No one really counts that. So I think might be time to give Punk a proper run with Seth on the shelf for the 6 months or so, maybe up until WrestleMania. You could give Punk a run here. So, I mean, I don't know. I'll think more about it as the week goes on and give you my preview and prediction show later this week. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think Punk is actually ready for a title run? You think the company's actually going to award him a championship run? Not just a few minutes or somebody cashes in or screws him. No. A real several month run. So then we get Sheamus versus J.D. McDonough in our fourth match of the night. Finn Balor is at ringside. Really good match here. Hard fought, smash mouth match that ends with J.D. beating Sheamus in 13 minutes and 40 seconds. And the finish was Sheamus dropping off the apron. Balor grabs the shillelagh that Sheamus brought to the ring, but Sheamus hit him with a knee strike. He then sets up for a high cross that McDonough breaks up, but Sheamus roughed him up at ringside. Balor broke up rather, and he tossed him back inside the ring. Sheamus went to the ropes. Balor hit Sheamus with a shillelagh while the ref was looking at McDonough, who then hit a top rope Spanish fly that looked great for the victory. Good match. This could have been a PLE quality match. I'm not saying it was anything that you'll remember in like a month, but if they put this on a PLE, I mean, this is a PLE quality match. These two just put maximum effort, and I really enjoyed this just kind of old school smash in your face type of matchup that most of Sheamus's matches tend to be, which is why Sheamus is one of, I think, the most underrated talents that WWE's ever had, because of his style and his Sheamus is good at promos. I mean, I think also that's also something that's not really talked about enough as well. And he's a talent that I think has probably seen his best years. He's a talent, though, that I think we're going to miss when he's gone, but we won't realize we miss him till he's gone. Kind of like everything in life. And he might have another run in him with a Intercontinental title or something, but I don't believe they'll ever make Sheamus a world champion again. And that could be certainly a debatable, fun topic to discuss with a co-host or something. But I just don't believe, based on Sheamus's age and where I think they think he fits in until his contract expires, is where he's going to be. No, just some props for Sheamus, but also McDonough, who played his role well as well. So, okay, backstage, Adam Pearce was talking to Maxine Dupree, who said she earned a third match with Becky Lynch. Dupree said she needed to call a friend to make sure she's prepared for anything that Lynch might throw her way, and she said she would take the title from Lynch and give her and everyone else the shock of their life. And Pearce told Dupree to call him when she's ready for the match. So I guess it's going to be Maxine just calling her shot as to when they think, or when she wants to face Becky Lynch. Now, who she's talking about, I mean, it could be Trish Stratus. It could be Trish. I'm trying to think of who else she might be thinking about. Do you guys have any ideas? I certainly hope it's not one of the four horsewomen, right? I mean, I know that she's in there in one of the original four OG women that were the faces of the women's evolution. But I do wonder who she's speaking of. So backstage, Jackie Redmond congratulated Charlotte and Alexa Bliss on holding the WWE tag titles for 89 days. Redmond said they defended the titles constantly, and Bliss said all the team has to do is ask, or a team has to do, and they'll put their titles on the line. Flair said they were 2 wins away from having the most successful women's tag title defenses in history. I'm a little suspicious of any time we talk about the history of the women's tag titles, because it's such a flawed history. Generally speaking, it's a history that a lot of fans don't want to really think about too much, because there's not a lot of good moments, a lot of really several weeks and months that the company has forgotten about the titles, a lot of hot potato with those belts, a lot of times where the team will win and then that team is off TV for like a month. Injuries have accompanied winning those titles. They have been cursed, no doubt. So anytime you mention the history or the history of those belts is mentioned, and I can't really think of too many times that they do, but in this case it was, and I just I laugh. I'm like, that's not it's an accomplishment, but you're also on very kind of, you're in dangerous territory talking about the history of the belts that, everyone knows, everybody knows are have not been treated well. So anyway, okay, we got the Kabuki Warriors showing up, and Asuka said Lyra and Bayley don't deserve the titles. Flair said she's beaten Asuka a lot, and she and Bliss would be honored to face the Kabuki Warriors. Asuka said they are not ready for her, and then walked away. And then Sane opened an umbrella and walked away. Whatever. I mean, just whatever. Okay, we have backstage. Again, another backstage segment. AJ and Dragon Lee speaking with Adam Pearce. Styles said he and Lee want to face any deserving team that wants to challenge them. Again, the idea that every babyface team needs to be a fighting champion or champions is a tired stereotype, and it's boring. I know that a lot of people love title defenses. I personally don't mind if a babyface was ever like, no, you know what? I busted my ass my whole life to get this. You're not going to reduce its value because you just feel you're entitled to a shot at this. Not just going to give out title matches. Championships should be valuable, and the way you create value is by fewer people getting them or even opportunities to get them. You don't just hand them out in the spirit of, A babyface must always be a fighting champion. It's tired. You can do it in a way that doesn't make them look like a coward. You can do it. There are ways to do it. I just outlined a way. I don't like, I mean, they really went from Alexa and Flair literally saying those things to AJ and Dragon Lee saying those exact things. Then you'll have any babyface that wins a championship for the first time say those very same things. Stop. Just, we get it. You don't need to be so transparent about it. It's one of their foundational philosophies of any champion that's a babyface that wins the championship for the first time, or if it's been a long time, they do it, that they must be a fighting champion no matter who challenges them. They always put the title on the line. Now, here's another way. If you're like, well, okay, we'll come up with an idea, smart guy. Okay, here's idea number 2. You can have them say, no, I'm not putting my title on the line because you don't deserve it. You don't just call your shots, number 1. Also, to show, again, to show the crowd that they're not a coward, you'll fight them in a non-title match. Why do they just deserve an opportunity at your championship? You can fight them, so you can fight them over pride. Why not? You'll still get the satisfaction of beating them. Yeah, so I'm very much against that philosophy that you always have baby faces transparently, constantly saying that they're going to be a fighting champion, and then I'll take on all comers. Stop it. It's makes me it's ick. It's icky. I hate seeing it. It's just a fundamental belief, and I think it's just wired into creatives' brains. Okay, so the broadcast team did say that Stephanie Vaquer and Nikki Bella would take on Roxanne, Perez, and Raquel Rodriguez on next week's Raw, so that'll be a big match. And Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair then come out, and they take on Lyra and Bayley for the women's tag titles. This match, really good. I mean, 14 minutes and 15 seconds, and it ends with Alexa and Charlotte beating Lyra and Bayley to retain the women's tag titles. The finish was Bayley about to tap in the figure 8, but Valkyria grabbed her arm to block her from tapping out. Bliss hits Twisted Bliss on Valkyria. Flair and Bliss hit stereo natural selections, and Flair pins Bayley. After the match, Asuka and Kairi attack Bliss and Flair, and then Asuka held Flair while Sane hit her with an insane elbow. The insane elbow, it does look insane. It's a great looking elbow. Asuka and Sane start to attack Valkyria, but they back off once Bayley returns to the ring. And then Asuka and Kairi make their exit while Bayley checks on Valkyria, and that kind of ended it here. They used the final moments to plug CM Punk and Jey Uso for the World Championship on Saturday night's main event. And this was good. I mean, a solid main event. How many times do you see the women's tag titles main event any show, much less the flagship show of Monday Night Raw? Now, it could be them checking a box. I think that's part of the motivation to quiet the critics that the WWE does not focus on the women's tag titles ever. It's never a main event. It's a sideshow. It's this and that. I think that's certainly part of it, or a side effect benefit that they get from this that they're aware of. But more importantly, you have 2 women that are future Hall of Famers in the women's division of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair that are excellent in the ring. Lyra is still, starting to learn her craft, but Bayley is a veteran. You have 3 of these 4 women already in the Hall of Fame at some point in their lives. So it certainly is a match that is going to result in a high quality, performance. And it did. It resulted in a very good matchup. I enjoyed this thoroughly. And, you don't see this too often, as I said, with the women's tag titles being a focal point of Monday Night Raw. My God. I'd love to come back to the next time that happens, though, because I very much feel that this was not a one-off, but it's something that WWE could say they've done to try to promote women's wrestling and the women's tag titles specifically. You know, they say, well, what are you talking about? We just had a Monday Night Raw main event with the women's tag titles. I went 15 minutes. Okay, yeah, fine. What about the last 50 months? Okay, one out of, so whatever. It's fine. I know I'm being cynical with their motivations for making this the main event, but the result is still the same. These 4 women had a very good match. Credit to all 4. I think the right team won. I think Alexa and Charlotte are on this wave, and I'm on board with them. I want to see how far it can go before it crashes. And it doesn't have to result in one turning on the other. Although you could, I guess, turn Alexa, because I don't need Charlotte being a heel. I know that I've said in the past, and I stand by it, that she is a better heel than a babyface, only because she feels forced when she's a babyface. It doesn't feel like that's really her. She smiles too much. It in the past, as her queen gimmick being a babyface, it has not resulted in a great run for her. Her best work has been as a heel. But this newly found version of her with Alexa is a much more relatable, down-to-earth version of her that I think is partly the reason for their success, because she's taken away the queen stuff. She's just Charlotte Flair. She's just wrestling her ass off. It's almost as if she's kind of gone back to her roots of just being a fun wrestler to watch. And I think taking away the queen stuff and the bow down stuff and all the planes and the trains and the jet, whatever, the wheeling dealing, all that from her father that she adopted has kind of been sidelined for this version of her, this tamed, toned down version. And I think that's partly, or really significantly, the reason for her success with Alexa. So when they eventually drop the belts, and they will, the question is, do they just kind of defect? They just kind of dissolve into nothing and they go their separate ways, possibly. But if they are going to do a turn, can I employ the WWE to make it Alexa be the one to turn? I actually think that would be a better way to give Alexa some steam rather than the potentially predictable turn by Charlotte that we've seen 100 times. And here we go again. Here comes Charlotte. Here comes the queen. And it comes back to all that goodwill that you built with Charlotte, all this kind of new feeling the fans have for her gets wiped away in an instant because the fans are thinking, oh crap, here we go again. It's back to Charlotte. But if Charlotte is somehow able to be the sympathetic figure, which they have to be careful with, it's not going to happen automatically because of the size difference also between Charlotte and Alexa is significant. So you need to do some work there to get the fans sympathetic for a woman who you've traditionally hated, but also she has a significant size difference. So you need to think about that as well. But they can do it. Alexa and Charlotte are ultra talented, and I think creative could come up with something for them to kind of work around that. So I'm predicting something that I don't think is going to happen for a little while, but if they are going to propose an eventual breakup and turn, as I said, Alexa Bliss, I think for those reasons should be the one to turn and not Charlotte. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So that'll do it for the Monday Night Raw review. My typical about 45 minutes of the Monday Night Raw recap and review. I didn't get every little nook and cranny. I don't always. I have a site that I go to read through just, some of the backstage stuff. I don't go through every little thing. Like I said, the Judgment Day segments that we've seen a million times, that kind of stuff. So if you're looking for every nook and cranny, I don't do that, but I hit on most points, I think, throughout the 2 to 3 hour show. And I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to join us over at Patreon to go ad free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the address to go to. You can also go ad free on Apple Podcasts by clicking the subscribe button, and you get a 2-month discount, 2 months for free, totally free, if you join us on the yearly version of the Apple Podcast stream. So if you like Apple Podcasts, most of you listen there. and you don't want to go to Patreon, it's another stream you got to keep up with. Well, there's a subscribe button on Apple, and you can click that and join us over on Apple and go ad free. Every ad you've heard throughout the show, it disappears like magic. So thank you, everybody. But again, I'll be back several times throughout the week because of the PLE, kind of PLE coming on Saturday, the previews, the predictions, the mailbag as well. So get your questions in earlier than normal this week. So those of you that like to email me, please do so earlier than you normally do. If you wait till Friday, I can't guarantee, because I don't know when I'm going to be recording it. It might be Friday, but it could also be earlier than that. So just to be safe, get your emails, questions, your predictions in to mailbag@wwepodcast.com really in the next couple of days. That way I can make sure that your email is read on the show. Again, patrons do get priority in the mailbag. That's one of the perks. So thank you, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll again be back several times throughout the week. Previews, reviews as well. Of course, after Saturday night's main event, we'll be doing a big review show. So I hope you join us there as well. And follow us on X at the WWE Podcast as well. Thanks, everybody. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to wwepodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.